It all makes sense now as the New York Jets make another trade this morning that coincides perfectly with exactly what the other trades were, and we finally have answers why everything is going down the way it's going down. We're going to break it all down. What's up, guys? I'm Matt Long. Welcome to Jets Digest. Let's jump right into the news for today. Coming from Adam Schefter via Jeremy Fowler, ESPN. The Chiefs are trading with the New York Jets to bring back defensive tackle Derrick Nnadi per sources. Deal includes a 2027 conditional 6th, 7th pick flop. So, more defensive tackle movement. A couple days after the New York Jets bring in Harrison Phillips and Briggs from the Cleveland Browns and also the Minnesota Vikings, the New York Jets are now sending away one of our defensive tackles. If we look at how our defensive tackle room is looking at right now, actually before that, the conditions of the picks are not out yet. We don't know exactly what they are. That's what happens when we're breaking down a trade the second it happens, but we're breaking it down the second it happens. So we're going to figure out what those draft picks actually are going to turn into. It's not going to be anything massive. Do not expect a huge return. But if it was someone who was never going to see the field in Derrick Nnadi, someone who, when you bring in Harrison Phillips and Juwan Briggs, someone who you clearly don't have a plan for on your defense, then it makes sense to get absolutely anything that you can get for him. That's why the New York Jets went ahead, made this trade, just picked up anything that they could find. But now we can look at our defensive tackle rotation, what it looks like. Harrison Phillips is pretty much officially going to be the number 2 defensive tackle next to Quinnen Williams. Makes a ton of sense. Quinnen Williams is going to go get the passer, while Harrison Phillips is going to stuff any run that comes the both of theirs way. I love that pairing together. I think they fit together really, really well. They're both veterans. They both got extra moves in the bank. They know how to play defensive tackle at a pretty high level. I really think going to free agency / the trade market to get run stuffers for cheap was the perfect way to build out this defensive tackle group, because pass rushers are very expensive. Pure run stuffers aren't. And Harrison Phillips isn't even a pure run stuffer. He's someone who, in the past, he's had very low sack production, but he still does get a couple of sacks per game. We could probably expect 2 to 3, maybe even 4 sacks this season for Harrison Phillips, depending how stuff shakes out. But looking at the rest of our room, Juwan Briggs, currently according to ESPN, they have him very far down the depth chart, although we just traded for him. He's definitely going to make the roster. He is safe ahead of Tuesday's cut down date. Byron Coward, J2 Fele. I think everyone is feeling really good about them being the 2 backup defensive tackles. There were times over the offseason where we thought both of those guys were going to be starters, where we were excited to see what they could bring to the table, and we wanted to watch Darren Mougey's offseason additions work. But a backup rotational role is definitely a better spot for them. They're not, they're not going to be actually good enough to be full-time starters. So I'm very happy that Harrison Phillips is being brought in, along with, we still have Derrick Nnadi, we don't have Derrick Nnadi. Leonard Taylor III. We're going to see if he sticks around. I imagine he will, just for rotational reasons. And then we have, the rest of the defensive tackle group coming along. But what's pretty funny about this trade, I'm sure everyone has already noticed, Derrick Nnadi came from the Kansas City Chiefs last season. He was not re-signed. He was a free agent. We picked him up, signed him to a little bit of money. And now the Kansas City Chiefs are saying, whoop, we made a mistake. Give us that guy back. That's why the Kansas City Chiefs are reacquiring their guy. Also, in New York Jets current news, yesterday the New York Jets cut 6 players, starting to get ready for Tuesday's cutdown date. The guys that cut: cornerback Mario Goodrich, offensive tackle Samuel Jackson, who had 2 really unfortunate plays back-to-back against the Philadelphia Eagles. Funny name, but after we watched those plays, you had to imagine Samuel Jackson was not going to be making the New York Jets. He had a play where first he got burned, and then he held the guy and slung him to the ground. And I was sitting on the couch. I turned to my dad and said, that's exactly what you're supposed to be doing. The next play, he gets burnt again. He doesn't sling the guy down to the ground, and the guy hits Adrian Martinez's hand when the football's up in his hand to throw. It's a fumble. Philadelphia Eagles get a short field, and they scored on that short field. That's why, if you're burnt, just throw the guy to the ground. We'll take the holding penalty. We'll take the 10-yard penalty instead of our quarterback getting hit, or the worst case scenario, which is what happened in that situation, which is a fumble. Also, Neil Johnson was cut, tight end, that we made a video on when he got signed last season. He was a high upside guy. Doesn't look like the upside will be coming to light, especially not with the New York Jets. But, wide receiver Demir Miller, never heard of him. Defensive tackle Fatorma Molba, also another guy I've never heard of. So, obviously, those guys were not expected to have a huge impact. Someone everyone has heard of, wide receiver Ontaria Pokey Wilson, coming over from Florida State. I think he was in the UFL as well. I believe he was on the UFL Battlehawks, whatever that blue team is. He was someone that I know a lot of Jets fans had high hopes for. I was saying guys that, have a production profile the way Pokey Wilson had in college. Usually they don't work out in the NFL, but then a lot of people were making the obvious connection of Florida State, Pokey Wilson, Florida State. Wow. I'm blanking on the Florida State quarterback who retired last season that everyone said was going to be the Jordan Travis. There it is. They said Pokey Wilson is going to work with Jordan Travis and they're going to have some sort of connection. And I told everyone, look at the history of fifth-round drafted quarterbacks. They don't make it in the NFL. And everyone was telling me, no, Jordan Travis is going to be the quarterback. We can put it all behind us. Don't need to talk too much trash or any trash really at all about Jordan Travis. It's not talking trash that he's a fifth-round pick. I can never be a fifth-round pick. 200 of the however many college quarterbacks every single year can't be fifth-round picks. It's still great what he did. He just wasn't good enough to be the starting quarterback of the New York Jets. Jordan Travis retired. Now Ontaria Pokey Wilson is also going to be leaving the New York Jets. There will be more moves coming from this team. If we've learned anything about Darren Mougey, it is the fact that he is, one, looking absolutely everywhere for people. He got Lander Vigeland from overseas in Germany. He got Pokey Wilson, or he can get Pokey Wilson from the UFL, but he's looking in other leagues. Darren Mougey's looking all over the place, not just the NFL and not just American college football when it comes to finding the best possible players for the New York Jets. And that's perfect because that is how you find the best possible players for the New York Jets. Look all over the place. Everyone's looking in college and the NFL. If you really want to find a super deep sleeper, someone who could have crazy upside, you got to look everywhere. You got to go find the guys. And we know for a fact that Darren Mougey is doing exactly that when it comes to free agency. We also know for a fact he is going to remain vigilant and stay active in the trade market. The third trade in the past couple days, all attacking that defensive tackle position. Pulling up the defensive tackle depth chart one last time. I don't expect Leonard Taylor to be traded, so I would think that Phillips, Quinnen Williams, Cowart, Tufele, Leonard Taylor, those will most likely, and Juwan Briggs, those are going to be our 6 defensive tackles. That's going to be our rotation. You can pretty much book that for 3:01 on Tuesday after the cut down date. We're going to have this rotation of defensive tackles going forward this season. Love the 1-2 punch, but we're going to see what everyone else can bring to the table. I don't know who it's going to be, but I do think one of either Byron Cowart, Jay Tufele, Juwan Briggs, or Leonard Taylor, one of those guys are going to break out, and they're going to be able to get signed longer term. We just don't know who it is going to be yet, but just revisiting the trade one more time. Once we get clarity on exactly what the conditions are with these picks, we will be making another video. We will make sure all the most recent New York Jets news is up to date and up on YouTube. We'll figure out what the conditions are, but that's what I got for this video. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and go Jets.